Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, DylanLasagna, and this is episode number 220 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. In this episode, we're here to talk about the week that was and will be in the 2024 NFL season. And of course, we always start with the week that was, week 3, and then we'll of course go on to the week that will be, which is week 4 in the NFL. So in regards to this week, not too much happened in terms of any exciting games for the most part, but there were a couple of shockers here and there, and hopefully that changes course going into the week that will be week 4. So we'll get into all that when we talk about everything here in this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. Before we get the ball rolling, make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media for all the updates and for all my other filthy casual takes that I share the word about. That'll be on Twitter or Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. You can follow me on both. And then if you're listening to this on audio, and make sure you do that as well, make sure you rate, review the show, where it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure you give it a 1 to 5 star review. Leave me some feedback for all my audio listeners out there. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, especially if you're not already. Smash the notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every episode that goes up and every video that's exclusive to YouTube. So you'll also be notified of that. And then leave your comments down below. Leave me your takes on each and every episode, every video that goes up. In this instance, it's the recap and the preview that is to come in the NFL. So yeah, leave me your takes on all that good stuff. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with your neighbor, share this with the stranger, share the good, the bad, the ugly about Very Cold Lasagna. That being said, let's talk about the week that was first around the NFL with week 3 in this 2024 campaign. So, as I said, not a lot of interesting things happened around this past week. Not too many developments, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. When I went through a lot of these games and some of the games I caught on TV, yeah, being the filthy casual fan I am, I was just like, okay, it is just another week in the NFL. But there were a couple surprises that caught me off guard. I was like, damn, okay, that was something. And then of course there was one particular way to end the week that really surprised me too. But we'll talk about it when we get there. So we start things off on week 3 with Thursday Night Football only on Amazon Prime Video. The best way you can start your week, pal, by paying up $15.99 a month, pal, or however much it costs to pay for that shit. We started off with the New York Jets beating the New England Patriots in a complete blowout, 24-3. Aaron Rodgers almost looking like his old self before the Achilles injury, scoring 2 touchdowns in that beating over New England, the rebuilding Patriots, by the way. When you look at Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, that was probably their best showing since Aaron Rodgers came to town. I mean, obviously it's only one game. It was that one game last year, but when you look at the first two games before that, obviously Aaron Rodgers was still adjusting, still trying to get acclimated. But after the first game, then he started to come along. He looked a lot more comfortable in the third game under center, moving out of the pocket more. So slowly but surely, Aaron Rodgers was starting to take those steps to regain some, if not most, of his pre-injury form. And he was also running out of the pocket, actually rushing to get some yardage, making those usual sidearm throws that he used to back in the day. So baby steps. Aaron Rodgers is taking those baby steps to help out the offense. So this is probably his best. I mean, obviously it was his best game. I'll take that back. So some good stuff if you're a New York Jets fan. Meanwhile, for the New England Patriots, I mean, I'm going to give you the harsh reality of it. I mean, obviously, this is where you are at this point. If you're them, I mean, the Patriots offense, they can't really function with Jacoby Brissett under center. Like, his limitations, and he clearly took a beating in the Meadowlands. With the offensive line not really looking bright, and eventually the game got so ugly that Drake May did get some cleanup duty with the game well out of reach. I mean, he looked, okay. I mean, it's expected when you're at that point in the game. And some people are saying, oh, it's time to bring in Drake May. It's trying to have him start the next one. But no. Let's pump the brakes there, pal. And especially tell Coach Jared Mayo that it's not high time to pluck in your new rookie starting quarterback, your third overall pick, just yet. Because, you don't want like I said before, you don't want your rookie starting quarterback to go out there with such a very limited supporting cast and to take a beating that Jacoby Brissett just did. I mean, I'm not saying I want either of them to get killed, but it's just like, do you really want your new, hopefully, franchise quarterback to go out and already get injured? Just saying. But I mean, at some point, though, you have to eventually. Now it's just not that time. So looking at the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion, the New York Giants beat the Cleveland Browns 21-15. Thanks to Malik Nabers having another big day with two touchdown catches from courtesy of Daniel Jones. The Giants had to hold off a late rally from the Cleveland Browns, aka the skid marks. Nabers slowly coming into his own, and Daniel Jones kind of finally having that deep threat that he's been lacking since he came over to being drafted from the Giants. So yeah, these last 2 weeks, Nabers has netted 4 total touchdowns. And maybe he could give something the Giants needed on offense, even if I don't see him as a threatening team, at least not right now. Meanwhile, for the Browns, I don't know where they're going, to be honest with you, because their defense is been okay, but their offense is just like, I don't know. It's easy to place blame on Deshaun Watson and his early struggles with the turnovers and the overthrows. But I mean, when you look like a little deeper, much blame can also be placed on the offensive line that's allowing such pressure to get to Watson. Like, look at the linemen. They're not giving any time for Watson to throw because they really need to tighten things up. I don't know if it's due to injury or just underperforming. Either way, it's like the offensive line for Cleveland, they really need to adjust, whether it's moving people around, a schematic issue. I don't know. They have to find a way to come together and solidify that front. Otherwise, Deshaun Watson's going to continue to struggle beyond just being him. Then we had the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Chicago Bears. They managed to beat them 21-16 thanks to Jonathan Taylor scorching the Bears' run defense all day long to counter another up and down performance from his quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Starting with the Colts, looking at this game, Anthony Richardson, he's been a roller coaster. He didn't exactly have a good day last week in Green Bay, but this time around, he looked a little bit better. He still threw a really bad interception in the end zone around the first or second quarter, but he had some nice passes to counteract that as well. So the Colts still trying to help out Anthony Richardson, because he didn't really have any starting reps last year because of the injury. So until he gets those starting reps, they're going to continue to utilize the supporting cast, whether it be Jonathan Taylor or having the defense step up. So that's what they did against the Bears. Speaking of the Bears, that offensive line, it's once again becoming an issue. It's rearing its ugly head. This time, it allowed 4 sacks on Caleb Williams, and the rushing attack. They couldn't get anything going because both the offensive line couldn't open anything up, and they didn't utilize its starting running back. So that being said, Caleb Williams should know that his offensive line is going to be ass. So Caleb Williams, he has to figure out at this point, like, all right, he has to find a way to bounce back, and he couldn't. And he also took too long holding the ball and paid for it. That was kind of his mistake the previous week against the Texans. Like I was kind of willing to give him a little bit of flack, but it's the second straight week, and he's got to find a way to not do that any longer. So he held onto the ball for too long. He paid for it, whether via the sack or by way of an unnecessary interception. So, yeah, he's got to find a way to improve that going forward, especially considering that this offensive line, yeah, it also has to find ways for improvement. So we'll see how it goes for Chicago. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Houston Texans in their own upset of sorts. Houston was favored in this game, but it was the Vikings that put the absolute hurt on the Houston Texans. Sam Darnold in Minnesota whooped their butts with a 4-touchdown ass whooping, 34-7. And for as much credit as Sam Darnold in Minnesota has been getting, or the lack thereof, this time around, I'm gonna be one of those people and say we should be giving some credit to the Minnesota Vikings defense and what Brian Flores has been doing with that group, because they've been getting to the quarterback. They've been knowing how to generate a lot of turnovers, especially to what they did to C.J. Stroud in this game. I believe they got a pick 6 off of him, if I remember correctly, but I don't quote me on that. But they've been a balancing act to Darnold in that offense. So if both sides can keep things up, Minnesota can be one of those teams that, nobody expected to be successful. They do have an interesting test coming up next week, though. For the Houston Texans, this was a bad performance from them. Turnovers, like an undisciplined penalties. Yeah, this was not necessarily that great, and it was a bad day at the office for C.J. Stroud and in this Texans offense. So they got to find a way to bounce back next week, and they also especially have to figure out that running game that didn't have Joe Mixon in it, and I hope he'll be ready to go next week, but that depends on his injury. Then we had the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New Orleans Saints. This is a game where both teams had so many opportunities to score up on one another, but there's just so many missed ones and some odd coaching decisions from both teams until the fourth quarter happened and Saquon Barkley exploded. He exploded with 2 touchdowns and saved the Philadelphia Eagles' butt to beat the New Orleans Saints 15-12. So Saquon saved the day, and so did the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They saved Nick Sirianni's ass too, because Nick Sirianni in this game, he made a couple of questionable decisions. Whether it was getting too comfortable and not taking points, like not going for the field goal in a game where points were very hard to come by. Like, Jake Elliott exists on his team, and yet he, on multiple occasions, elected to go for 4th down, and half of the time he didn't get it for some reason. But his defense, led by Vic Fangio, who had a bad performance against the Falcons, they bailed him out. And so did Jalen Hurts too, to a degree. They bailed his ass out with the lockdown day on Derek Carr, the defense specifically. The supposed top scoring offense, with how uncomfortable they made Derek Carr. And hopefully that formula of success carries over to the next week on their second road game going into Tampa. So maybe that could be something for them. Meanwhile, for the Saints, what happened? What happened in this game? So that success from the previous 2 weeks with Carolina and then the Cowboys, especially the Cowboys, what exactly happened against this game against Philadelphia? It's just completely evaporated. Evaporated. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. It's this was an early test for Derek Carr and the Saints offense, yet they failed. They failed to attack an Eagles defense that, they could have really poked. Yet they couldn't find any weak points. They did most of the time, but they ended up coming with either just 3 or just nothing at all. So I don't know, man. Maybe I was too quick to almost erased the mid tag on them, the mid label I've had on them for since I started this podcast. So if they want me to erase the big mid and the big hard label on them, they're going to have to play like how they did against Carolina, against Dallas, against the top tier teams in the NFL. They got to start doing that. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the LA Chargers 20-10. Justin Fields, enjoying his most productive day yet as a Steeler and probably locking down the starting position for good. That's until he melts down on any particular game, to the point Mike Tomlin has to consider a change from him to Russell Wilson. So until he does that, I feel like he has that starting position on lock. I don't know if Russell Wilson is healthy by now, but I feel like Justin Fields has a firm grip on that starting position. Maybe slowly, surely, he could be. He may be the quarterback that Chicago couldn't get out of him. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, oh boy, yeah, this is a game that they really didn't want to have. I'm not mean in terms of you gotta win it, but what exactly happened? Because when this game actually happened, something happened that they didn't want to happen, and that was Justin Herbert getting injured, and they could have avoided that by not having Justin Herbert play. And there's not like them forcing him to play. They let him play after Justin Herbert chose to play, if you get what I'm saying. So Justin Herbert popped up on the injury report on Friday with an ankle injury. I'm not sure if it was like a high ankle injury or something, but either way, they should have forced Justin Herbert to be on the inactive report, but they elected not to for some reason. So, he gutted it out, but then the third quarter happened and he got injured, which is not good, not a good sign for them. So now they're going to a big game against the Kansas City Chiefs at home before their bye week, and they don't know at the time, right now, if I'm talking about this, they don't know for sure if they're going to have Justin Herbert. And Taylor Heineke didn't exactly provide confidence for them for the rest of this game. So the last thing they want is an injured Herbert. And do they really want to push the cards going into that game against the Chiefs with a less than healthy Justin Herbert? So Chargers fans, if there's any, do you really want that? Do you really want to push the envelope before your bye week? I don't know. Then the Denver Broncos with another upset, week 3. They went to Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks and made life hell for Baker Mayfield and that team, as Denver providing one of the wacky upsets of this week, beating them 26-7, as Sean Payne continuing to integrate, continuing to help out Bo Nix by finding some balance for him as he continues to wean in Bo Nix into the NFL. What I mean by that, he's the first 2 weeks saw Payne baby Bo Nix with some easy passes that weren't gonna threaten any defense, and he kind of saw offense to what the Steelers were saying about how he's babying Bo Nix, how he's making things too easy for him. Well, this week against the Bucks, he decided to sprinkle in some intermediate throws for him while also taking advantage of their depleted defense. And by also doing that, he decided to use Bo Nix's own rushing ability a little bit more, utilize the rushing attack with Javonte Williams even more. So, yeah, Sean Payne should continue to bounce that out, and then hopefully Bo Nix will continue to feel comfortable to let it all out, pal. As well as hopefully the defense continuing to play a big role as well. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Bucks, there's not a good loss at all, considering all the injuries that are starting to come crashing down defensively, and the offense starting to feel a little stale without a true running back in the backfield. Sure, you have Bucky Irving, the rookie, but it's not enough. It really isn't enough. It's creating pressure on Baker Mayfield to really deliver. It does help for Baker to try and gut it out, but it's just it really isn't enough. Like, they really need someone to step up in the backfield, because otherwise this Bucs offense is going to be very predictable. Then we had the Green Bay Packers taking on the Tennessee Titans. It was a revenge game for Malik Willis, and, well, the Packers took care of business. They bullied Will Levis, and they did it with a 7-sack sandwich on him. They got a pick 6 out of him, and Malik Willis got his revenge. The Packers beat the Titans 30-14, and Malik Willis had a better game than he did in the last one. Did much better, threw a lot more, and showed a lot of more chemistry with the supporting cast in place of the injured Jordan Love. So he did his job for these 2 games. Now the question becomes, do the Packers bring back in Jordan Love? I mean, I don't know how fully healthy it is. He's been practicing in a limited capacity in the last week, but something to consider. If Malik Willis is doing fine in terms for the Packers' eyes, should he start one more game against the Vikings this coming week? Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt, but it's also something to consider. Might not be the worst idea in the world. Meanwhile, for the Titans, it's something that they should consider, though, is turning up the heat on Will Levis's starting seat, because it's getting more and more apparent that Will Levis is not doing anything to correct his turnover habit, because he keeps eating sacks, he's eating picks, especially pick 6s, and then he's fumbling all over the place. Like, he's a turnover machine. So I'm not sure what they're doing to trying to help correct this turnover problem, but whatever they're doing, it's not working. So this next game that on a Monday night, ironically, against the team that he got the face in that same primetime contest last year. Yeah, like, they got to figure out like what to do with Will Levis, because if he doesn't improve in this coming game, Callahan has got to figure out whether to pull the plug on Levis, at least for the short term, because something is not working over there in Tennessee. Moving on to the late afternoon slate of games, the Carolina Panthers finally won a game, pal. They finally won a game, but there's a caveat to that. It wasn't with Bryce Young. No. It was with the Red Rifle, Andy Dolan. The Red Rifle finally put an ignition into the Kitties in Blue as they mauled the Las Vegas Raiders with an offensive barrage not seen since Bryce Young took over the starting role. They beat them 36-22 in a complete blowout. And makes you wonder, was Bryce Young really the problem with this with how things went in the last year? Makes you wonder. I hope it wasn't. I hope it wasn't Bryce Young being the issue. So it also makes you wonder, what did the Panthers hope to get out of this long term? Like starting Andy Dolan and hoping that Bryce Young learns something by sitting on the bench. So if it's supposed to make Bryce Young learn something, or like make him feel better as a starting player, I mean, we'll see. I just don't really know what the upside is in the Panthers long term when it comes to Dolan starting at QB. I don't know. Should something to keep an eye on going to the next week and beyond. And then for the Raiders, like, what happened? What happened to that effort from last week? Like, they once again no-showed on all fronts. Like, that effort that they got in Baltimore, like, it wasn't there. Like, what? Like, how did that completely disappear from one week to the other? There's like absolutely no consistency with this team, especially offensively. And I guess apparently from what I saw, like in a post-game presser with Antonio Pierce, some players pulled the "that doesn't work for me, brother" card. They made some business decisions. They pulled a Hulk Hogan during the game. So Antonio Pierce took offense to that, and like during the practices this week, during preparation for this week's game, he's gonna make some business decisions of his own. He's gonna pull his own "that doesn't work for me, brother" on his own players. That'll be something to watch for this upcoming game against the Skid Marks. So we'll see what happens with the Raiders. So then the Seattle Seahawks took some easy pickings on the hapless Miami Dolphins and their backup quarterbacks, beating them 24-3. I mean, there's not really much to say about the Miami Dolphins at this point, at least not right now, because they don't have a quarterback. Tua is on IR with a concussion, and their backups, well, they can't do anything with the talent pool around them. So, I mean, what do I need to say? What do I really need to say about the Dolphins right now without their starting quarterback? What I could say, though, is they have to try and start Tyler Huntley, the former Ravens backup. At least try something. The Seattle Seahawks, so yeah, they haven't really faced a true legit team as of right now. But yeah, I mean, at least they're maximizing the most of what they have so far with their new head coach, their supposed new improved defense. So should be interesting though. They have their first true test coming up on a Monday night in Detroit. So they're about to be tested there. Speaking of Detroit, the Detroit Lions took care of the Arizona Cardinals 20-13. That Montgomery and Gibbs combo gashed Arizona in the first half. And then the Lions defense did enough in the second half to keep the birds away. And that Lions defense, they're starting to balance out their offense. They are poised to face supposedly a big test against Arizona with Kyler Murray in that offense. But those offseason moves that they made, they were big ones. Some of them were, at least, as they greatly limited that Arizona offense. So it's only 3 weeks, but I feel like it's starting to pay off with a more balanced Lions team. However, there were a few injuries, with Marcus Davenport now being out for the season, which is no surprise because he's always injured. But hopefully they continue to ride it out with their current defense, and hopefully the defensive performance that they got in Arizona continues to carry on going to the next week and more. Speaking of Arizona, the offensive line is having a little bit of issues with the right tackle and the depth behind it, and that's the reason why the Cardinals' offense was cooled down. They were held to just one touchdown and a couple field goals, mainly due to that right side, completely allowing Kyler Murray to scramble a lot on the opposite end and getting sacked. So they're dealing with some injuries. So that's why they're getting slowed down in that game. So that allowed Detroit to completely attack them in a couple of the other weak spots. So if Arizona wants to succeed, they got to find a way to hopefully find, if that last player is there at right tackle, be that one to secure the offensive line. The Baltimore Ravens took on the Dallas Cowboys in America's game of the week. The Ravens raced out to a 26 lead into the third quarter, but the fourth quarter happened, and they almost blew another big lead. And the Cowboys rallied back late in the fourth, and the Ravens barely held on to get the win, 28-25. And how does Baltimore almost fuck it up again? Like, seriously, are they just lounging around, saying, "Oh, we're good, we should be fine"? No, like, their new defensive coordinator is just like, we're chill. No, you should know by now, no lead is safe in the NFL. For some reason, they picked up the Chargers' bad habit of dicking around with a big lead and then letting their opponents catch up. Like, you got to know going forward that you have to adapt and adjust the game and keep the game out of reach from the opposition. You got to keep scoring. You got to keep moving the ball. Yet, the Ravens these last 2 weeks, they haven't been able to do that. And this game, it nearly cost them. And then the Cowboys, like, they're 1-2. This is supposed to be their all-in type of season. But once again, they allowed themselves to get boat raced from the jump because they couldn't stop opposing offenses. They couldn't execute their own offense for most of the game. And once they did finally wake up, well, it was probably likely too late anyway. They couldn't get the stop necessary to complete the comeback. And the personnel, well, they have right now, especially on the offensive line, it's not great. And that's supposed vaunted defense that they have, it's underperforming. So Mike McCarthy's team, it has to start better from the jump if his team wants to win. Mike Zimmer's defense, I don't know what's going on with them, but they got to find a way to perform better as well, because they dropped to 1-3. Yeah, their chances at the division is gonna drop. It really is gonna drop. Then we had another upset of sorts as the LA Rams beat my San Francisco 49ers 27-24. These shorthanded Rams in injury mania down in LA rally back from a 2 separate 10-point deficits to stun my San Francisco 49ers. And for San Francisco, like, they really could have had it. Like, I talked about it in my separate review for this game. They blew it. They blew it, especially because of the defense. Like, Nick Sorensen, like, he I don't know what's going on. Like, maybe he's still trying to adjust to the new position, but it was a stinker. It was another stinker. Like, there were barely any adjustments in coverage. The players are doing poorly defensively, like in coverage. Like, they're not going man to man or keeping up with even the players that are on the Rams. So it's like there's also no pass rush. So whatever is going on right now, they better fix it up soon, because the teams that they're about to face, it's only going to give them more trouble in the next several weeks. I wouldn't necessarily say next week, but the week after that, yeah, they're definitely going to give them trouble. And then meanwhile for the Rams, they're still facing some injury problems. They're still not fully healthy, but Matthew Stafford's making it work. He's utilizing the most of what he has at his very little disposal, whether it be Kyron Williams or Tutu Atwell or even some scrub that's on the practice squad. But hey, he made it work here against the 49ers. And as the team continues to get healthy, he'll probably make it work until then. Then the Sunday Night Football game for week number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs held on by the thick of their skin to beat the Atlanta Falcons 22-17. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons were on the doorstep of another late comeback upset, but they made a questionable play call on 4th and inches to stop that stopped them dead in their tracks as the Chiefs held on from there. The Chiefs, they were missing a couple people in this game, but their backups, their secondary players, they made the most of their chances, especially on a quiet night for Travis Kelce, where he didn't really do a whole lot. The players that were either there to replace, again, the injured players or to help out their underperforming players, they stepped up when Patrick Mahomes needed them to get another close victory. So, I mean, that's why they're the 2-time defending champions. I mean, as much as people like to hate them, and I certainly sometimes have my gripes about them, I mean, that's why they're here to stay. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Falcons, like, they had some opportunities to pull off this upset, but that play call is definitely going to haunt them. Like, why couldn't they go for the quarterback sneak? Maybe it was the injury to Kirk Cousins. Like, they want to risk him getting injured, but maybe you could have tried something different. Maybe you could have tried something with their backup, Michael Penix Jr. I mean, he was healthy. He was healthy enough. Like, you didn't have to use him for like the play after. Why not try something with him? Try something different. Use the quarterback sneak. Get him a little bit of experience there. I don't know. Either way, like, not sure why you didn't try something on 4th and inches. That was a bad play call. Like, having Bijan Robinson run on the side, like, where everyone was going to expect them. That was a terrible play call. Then we had the Monday Night Football doubleheader where it absolutely destroyed Monday Night Raw. Yeah, 1.3 million viewers, down 200 from last week. Yeah, pal. Anyway, the Buffalo Bills, speaking of destroy, they beat down the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars as Josh Allen, the Bills, dropped a 30 bomb in the first half on them. And, well, the game was pretty much over at halftime with a final score of 47-10. And, yeah, the Jaguars, what's going on with them? They have some serious coaching issues right now. And I think that from the way someone talked about, like, Shahid Khan being all pissed off, like being the most angry he's ever been. I saw a tweet about that, like an insider tweet. But either way, if the Jaguars don't get anything going in the next game or two, I could see some serious coaching changes on the horizon, whether it be a coordinator change or a head coaching change. I could see Doug Peterson going out the door because you have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. Like, what are you doing? Like, what the hell are you doing? That's causing Trevor Lawrence to play this poorly. And also your defense is doing poorly too. Who's not doing poorly though is Josh Allen. Like, look at this game as a prime example of how Josh Allen has pretty much made this entire offense about sharing and caring. Like, a team that doesn't give a shit about stats, analytics, as he likes to point out. He cares about how everyone is performing, which should be the case in the NFL. Like, you should be caring about how you perform, like how your performance on the field is, not about these statistics about, oh, like I got this amount of yards or I got this many touchdowns and all that. No, it's about sharing and caring. So, yeah, even though the Bills traded away Stephon Diggs in the offseason, well, they've yet to truly miss him because Allen has gotten the best of what he currently has around him. And you got to give credit to both him and his offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, for making things work. So, yeah, I mean, this Bills offense has been firing on all cylinders so far. I mean, they haven't really missed a beat yet. I mean, they're certainly going to get tested this coming week, but this Bills offense has been pretty damn good. Then in the second Monday night game, we had a big upset down in Cincinnati as Jayden Daniels showed the world who he was and what he can do. He had his breakout game against the Cincinnati Bengals with a 3 touchdown showing, including a prayer ball to Terry McLaurin to ice a big upset, 38-33. But it was pretty much over before that. And I gotta say, Jayden Daniels, he looked pretty good with this one. And that was because, in my opinion, I think the Commanders tested him. They tested him to see what he can do. Like, they want to try and see, like, oh, can you throw a deep ball? Can you do things other than, hand off the ball or do these short passes or run yourself? And surely enough, as the game went on, he most certainly passed that test. So, yeah, sure, they kept things they still kept things simple, but like I said, as the game wore on, he got more comfortable throwing that damn thing. And as I talked about, he threw a lot more mid-range balls, and then the prayer ball to Terry McLaurin to ice the game. So, Commanders fans, you can only hope that it goes nothing but up from here, and carry that over to the next game and the next and the next. I think you got something special with Jayden Daniels, hopefully. What's not special is this 0-3 start for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, this game was supposed to be your get right after 2 close losses to the Chiefs, and then a game that you should have had against the New England Patriots, but you pooped the bed in this game against Washington in pretty much both phases of the ball. Like, and some of your flaws, like the offensive line, and then your backfield of the defense, like there were some things in this game where you should have had should have gotten right, but then you didn't. And yeah, those things that I thought you had fixed in the offseason, well, it wasn't, and it shined bright here again. So you got to find a way to turn it around because they're 0-3, and it's only going to get tougher from here. So that was the week that was week number 3 in the 2024 NFL season. Who had it best? Who had it worst? What was your biggest takeaway from this past week in the NFL. What was your favorite win? Who stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comments on YouTube, and let me know on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So now that we talked about the week that was, let's talk about the week that was. Week number 4. The week that will be, actually. The week that will be in the NFL coming up real soon. And let's just hope that this week is better than this past week. And I'll be honest with you. This past week was, other than the upsets, it wasn't really all that high and mighty. If we're being honest here. So let's get into the week that will be in the National Football League. And it all kicks off with another Thursday night football game only on Amazon Prime Video as the Dallas Cowboys travel to the Meadowlands. Yes, we got another game up in the Meadowlands, this time on the Big Blue side to take on the New York Giants. Both teams at 1-2. The Dallas Cowboys trying to avoid a 1-3 start with some various issues, whether it be the defense, the offensive line, the coaching. So the Dallas Cowboys trying to avoid that 1-3 start and keep their season alive, their early season hopes alive. Meanwhile, for the Giants, they do have potential to some potential to try and upset the Dallas Cowboys with their defensive front and a little bit of dose of Malik Nabbers. So who knows? Crazier things have happened in the NFL. Then we go on to the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion as we have an NFC South showdown between the New Orleans Saints at 2-1 taking on the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. The Saints seriously need to reheat on offense after that big dud against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. Meanwhile, for the Falcons, when I look at it from their side, yeah, there are things they have to improve on as well. But in fairness, Kirk Cousins, after that game in Philadelphia, where he's moved around a lot more in the pocket, he didn't really move all that. He kept himself relatively still this past week in week 3. And probably it has to do with him trying to get fully healthy still, but it's limiting the offense. So you have to ask yourself, what can the Falcons do to adjust to that? What can they do to improve the offense while trying to get Kirk Cousins fully healthy? So that's something to consider going to this game against New Orleans. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 0-3 taking on the 1-2 Carolina Panthers. Andy Dalton, game to face his old team that's trying to go 0-4 with the possibility of Carolina trying to give them that factoid. Carolina has a possibility to go 500, get their second straight win of the year, and who knows, maybe Andy Dalton has some extra motivation to win the Panthers' second straight game by beating his old team. Crazier things have happened. The 1-2 LA Rams take on the also 1-2 Chicago Bears, and the Rams once again gonna try to go for the motto of winning ugly again, despite that paper thin offense. And then for the Bears, they gotta get more out of Caleb Williams in that Bears offense, and basically it's a matter of what can they do to help each other out. Then we got an interesting NFC North matchup, and that's involving the 3-0 Minnesota Vikings taking on the 2-1 Green Bay Packers. It's another one of those prove-it games for Sam Darnold and the Vikings, and just the Vikings team as a whole, as they take on this Packers team that is young, yet talented across the board, but they have the big question of, do they bring back Jordan Love for this game from that MCL spring? He seems like he's on his way to being cleared to go. He's been practicing at the time I'm recording this, but will he be fully ready to go? And if he is fully ready to go, do you bring him back? Do you bring him back for this game, or do you hold him off for just one more week, in the interest of long-term safety? That remains to be seen. Then we have the 0-3 all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the 2-1 Houston Texans in an AFC South matchup, as both teams looking to bounce back and get a win after tough losses in Buffalo for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Minnesota for the Texans, respectively. But Jacksonville especially has to have this because, well, they haven't won a game yet, and they desperately need to win this to keep their season alive and keep up with the Texans. Otherwise, they are screwed. They are screwed no matter how much you want to slice and dice this. So the Jags have to win this game to keep not just their division hopes alive, but just in general, their season alive. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Indianapolis Colts. Steelers 3-0, Colts 1-2. This is also a game where the Colts need to win this one to pretty much keep pace with the Texans. They already lost the season opener to them, but the Colts, gutting out a close one against the Bears last week. So hopefully they're going to try to upset the undefeated Steelers. And this is a road test for Justin Fields and the Steelers, as Fields hopefully tries to have another solid game to keep that starting job on lock. Then we have the 1-2 Denver Broncos taking on the 2-1 New York Jets. And in this game, I really hope that Sean Payne unlocks a little bit more of that offense, a little bit more of the playbook for Bo Nix against a tough New York Jets defense. And for Aaron Rodgers, we'll see how much more like he'll be able to unleash with that offense. Is he healthy? Is he fully healthy? We'll see. Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Bucks square off. Both are 2-1. The Eagles coming off a bounce back win in New Orleans. The Bucks coming off a bad loss. So both are in deferring situations. So the Eagles looking to get a better offensive showing against a depleted Bucks defense. So this should be an interesting game. It's also a rematch of that wild card matchup from January. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it if I can watch it, that is. So then you have the late afternoon slate. The first one being the Washington Commanders at 2-1, taking on the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals. So this is a battle between two young quarterbacks. Jayden Daniels, he's trying to follow up that breakout game that he had in Cincinnati, and he's gonna have to do it against a Arizona team that's gonna also have a red hot offense. Hopefully that's trying to reheat after getting cooled down by the Lions. So these are two young quarterbacks that are looking to stay heated up, especially Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. So should be a fun one in the desert for those gonna be keeping tabs on that one. Then the New England Patriots at 1-2 take on my San Francisco 49ers, also at 1-2. The Patriots obviously rebuilding, and they're going in pretty much not too much to really high invest in, but you never know. They can go in there and trying to upset San Francisco. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, injury mania rearing its ugly head yet again. They just lost Javon Hargrave for the season. Christian McCaffrey is just recently went out to Germany to go and get a second opinion on that Achilles tendonitis thing. And, well, you have a few players coming back to practice. Now you hear that Brock Purdy is having back soreness from, carrying the team Sunday in LA. It's like, damn. See what you did to the kid? God damn it. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs at 3-0 taking on the 2-1 LA Chargers. So the injuries also mounting for LA because, well, they may not have their starting quarterback in Justin Herbert again because Justin Herbert elected to gut it out in Pittsburgh with the high ankle sprain, but unfortunately he got dinged in the third quarter and he was lost for the rest of that game. And now the Chargers are hoping he can play this game, but at least from my perspective, it's looking unlikely. But we'll see as the week goes on. Then we have the Cleveland Browns at 1-2 taking on the also 1-2 Las Vegas Raiders. Not exactly a particularly interesting game, but for those keeping tabs on it, both offenses looking to have better days. And then for the Raiders, well, Antonio Pierce is going to keep a high eye on it because, as I talked about in the week that was, some players pulled that doesn't work for me, brother card. And if the players are going into business for themselves, well, Antonio Pierce is going to be pulling that Hulk Hogan card on those players too. So maybe this should be an interesting game for the players trying to pull that bullshit on him. So we'll see some dysfunction with Antonio Pierce as head coach already. I thought that players respected him. Unfortunate. Just unfortunate. Then we have what should be a fun Sunday night football matchup to cap off the Sunday portion. The Buffalo Bills at 3-0 take on the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens as Lamar Jackson and the Ravens face a tall task in slowing down the red-hot Josh Allen and the Bills offense. The Ravens defense is going to have, I feel like it's going to have a tough task in trying to slow them down. The Bills defense, it may have some issues as well, but either way, we should be entertained nonetheless. Then we have another Monday Night Football doubleheader. R.I.P. Monday Night Raw. By the way, it's the go-home show for Bad Blood, but yeah, I certainly couldn't care less, at least right now. But anyway, back to football. The Tennessee Titans at 0-3 take on the Miami Dolphins at 1-2. It's a rematch from last year's final Monday Night Football doubleheader. As the Titans, they really got to heat up Will Levis' seat. They got to call upon Will Levis to really step up to the plate, take care of that damn football. And if he can't beat a depleted Dolphins team that's really lagging at quarterback, then yeah, they got to put him up, that backup quarterback right behind his butt and say, hey, you bet I'm coming for you. Speaking of quarterback, who's going to be the starting quarterback for Miami this week? Is it going to be Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle? Is it going to be Tyler Huntley? We'll see in this Monday night game. Then the Seattle Seahawks at 3-0 faced their first big test against the Detroit Lions at 2-0. We're going to see how Mike Macdonald's defense is going to do against a red-hot Detroit Lions offense led by Jared Goff and that running back duo of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm really interested to see how that test is going to go out for them. But either way, I feel like these games hopefully will deliver in this coming week that will be week number 4 of the 2024 NFL season. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those two primetime matches with the Lions, the Seahawks, and the Bills and the Ravens. Those two should be fun. Should be fun to watch out for. But let me know what you're looking forward to with the week that will be week number 4 in this 2024 campaign. And of course, let me know your takeaways from the week that was week number 3 in the NFL so far. But anyway, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am DylanLasagna, your host of this podcast with all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. And as always, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your sports takes. And until the next one, we'll be back with another edition of the week that was and will be around the NFL with week number 4. And a week will be week number 5 coming soon in the next episode. But until then, peace out.